Today, I'm going to be talking about how to perform an oil change. So the first step is pulling the vehicle into the bay, and you want to make sure that when you pull it in, you get the front wheel lined up properly with the pad on the ground. For most regular sized vehicles, you want it on the tab. If it's a smaller vehicle, you might want it in front of it, and for some bigger trucks, you'll want it past it. And then you want to put the lift arms underneath and line them up either with the pinch welds, which is this right here, and that's what we're going to go ahead and do on this vehicle because we have the pinch weld right there, and that's a secure spot. And then for the front, we will put it also on the pinch weld because that's a nice secure spot. It's not going to crush anything, and it will support the vehicle. And then we'll do the same on the other side. For the front and for the back. Then we want to pop the hood. Continue. All right, so for this particular vehicle, the hood strut is actually bad, so in this instance we are going to be using a stick to prop up the hood. And then you want to remove the oil cap. The purpose of doing this before draining the oil is one, so that when you bring the vehicle back down, you notice the cap where the hood would close, and it reminds you, make sure you don't forget to put oil in it. And also the cap being off allows like gravity to get in there and help to actually push the oil out quicker. So then after your hood's popped and your oil cap's off, you can go ahead and lift the vehicle. You want to stop it a little ways, kind of give it a little wiggle, not too much with the stick. And then every time you lift the vehicle, when you get it up to about where you want it, you want to make sure that you always lower it down onto the locks. That's just an extra safety measure to make sure it doesn't fall on top of you. And then you want to look and see about, oh geez, that's huge, what size your drain plug is. This one's particularly large. The drain plug would be located right on your engine oil pan and somewhere in the vicinity of it. And you want to get it in an approved container, which here we have these nice catch pans that we can collect oil in. Set that up. This one's probably going to shoot kind of far. Figure out which size wrench fits. For this particular vehicle, it's a 19 millimeter, which is quite larger than most. You want to break it loose. To speed things up here a little bit, since this one isn't necessarily finger tight right upon being broken loose, we're going to get a ratchet so that we can be a little quicker about ratcheting it off. And then loosen your drain plug only. Okay. This one's kind of tight all the way through. Typically you can break them loose and then you can use your fingers, kind of how this is now, to kind of screw them off the rest of the way. But this particular drain plug was tight for the length of the plug. Then you want to locate where your oil filter is. The oil filter on this vehicle is up in the front here, and there's not enough room to get the catch pan to where it can catch the oil and the oil that'll drip from the oil filter. So we have to wait for the oil to finish draining before we can remove the filter, because oil is going to drain out of it. Now that it started getting down a little bit, we can probably move it over and have enough room to be able to get this filter off. Yeah, nice. Most of the time, your oil filters will be hand tight because they're supposed to be put on hand tight, and you'll be able to loosen it with your hand. We're gonna go ahead and reinstall the drain plug while the filter is draining, or get it started at least. I'm gonna remove our filter all the way. And then we always want to make sure to check our gasket surface and make sure that the gasket from the oil filter did not get stuck on the surface, which it didn't. Another way you can check that is by looking at the filter itself, and you see where this black gasket is. You want to make sure that that is still on there after you remove the filter, because if it stays on there and then you put on the new filter, then you get what's called a double gasket, and that won't seal any of the oil in, and it'll all come leaking out from the filter. Wipe my hands off here. All right, you ready? All right, every time that you put a new oil filter on, you want to make sure that you lube up the gasket by putting a little bit of oil on your finger and then just rubbing it onto the gasket. This ensures that you get a proper, really good seal when you tighten it on to the gasket surface. And then you're going to take your filter and put it right back onto the gasket surface, the filter surface, and just hand tighten it down. And then just screw it on and make sure it's hand tight. All right, stop it. Drained out, then you want to tighten back up your drain plug all the way on with your ratchet. And you don't want it to be too tight, but you just want to make sure it's nice and snug, which this is. All right, once everything's tight and you've double checked it, make sure your filter's hand tight and your oil drain plug is nice and snug. You can go ahead and lift the lift up a little bit to get it off the locks, release the lever, and then lower it down. Once all done, you can take your funnel put it into the hole where your oil cap was, and then proceed to pour in your oil. This takes 5 quarts.
4.75.
Okay.
So
0.40.
mm-hmm.
And then you can pour in the recommended oil. For this vehicle, it's 4.75 quarts. Let it drain in there some. Ready? Once all your oil's in, you can remove your filter and reinstall your oil cap. And then you just do that until it clicks into place. You want to make sure there's not too much oil in your hands. And you're going to want to start the vehicle up and let it run. Drained out, then you want to tighten back up your drain plug all the way on. With your ratchet. And you don't want it to be too tight, but you just want to make sure it's nice and snug. Which this is. Alright, once everything's tight and you've double checked it, make sure your filter's hand tight and your oil drain plug is nice and snug. You can go ahead and lift the lift up a little bit to get it off the locks, release the lever, and then lower it down. Once all done, you can take your funnel, put it into the hole where your oil cap was, and then proceed to pour in your oil. This takes 5 quarts.
4.75.
Okay.
So
0.40.
mm-hmm.
And then you can pour in the recommended oil. For this vehicle, it's 4.75 quarts. Let it drain in there some. Ready? Once all your oil's in, you can remove your filter and reinstall your oil cap. And then you just do that until it clicks into place. You want to make sure there's not too much oil in your hands. And you're going to want to start the vehicle up and let it run for about 30 seconds, which is just to allow the